I've lost 3 boyfriends because of my parents, and now my current boyfriend won't let me move in with him until he meets them. But I know if he does, they'll do everything they can to break us up just like they always have. The first one never made it past dinner. I was 19. He was my first real boyfriend, and I was so nervous to introduce him that I'd rehearsed the whole evening in my head a dozen times. Good food, easy conversation, everyone gets along. I stepped away for 10 minutes to help my sister with her baby. When I came back, my dad and my boyfriend were in a full-blown fistfight in the kitchen. I still don't know what was said. My boyfriend stormed out without a word to me, and when I called him later, he just laughed and said I could believe whatever I wanted. Then he blocked me. My parents told me he'd shown his true colors, that I was lucky. My mom said my dad could read men, and that one had bad written all over him. Something about it felt deeply wrong, but I was 19, and they were my parents, so I let it go. The second one I protected for a full year before I let them anywhere near him. I thought a year was long enough that I'd have built something solid enough to survive one dinner. I was wrong. My mom smiled through the whole meal and spent it asking leading questions about my past relationships, including several guys who didn't even exist. My dad waited until dessert to ask how a college student with a part-time job planned to support his daughter long-term. My boyfriend set his fork down, said he'd already decided he wanted nothing to do with this family, and walked out, blocked before I got home. By the time the third one left the same way, I stopped trying to explain it away. I knew what my parents were doing. I just didn't know why, and I didn't know how to stop it. So when I met my current boyfriend 2 years ago, I made a decision. They would never meet him. I had a rotating set of excuses ready whenever he brought up the holidays. One of them was traveling. One of them was sick. One time I said there was a family conflict and left it vague enough that he didn't push. It worked because he's not the type to push. He's steady and patient in a way I'd never experienced before. And every month that passed, I fell more in love with him and more terrified of the thing I was hiding. Then last week, he sat me down and told me he couldn't let me move in until he'd met my family. Not as an ultimatum, just as a boundary he'd clearly thought through carefully. He said he needed to understand where I came from before we took that step. It was completely reasonable. I knew it was completely reasonable. And I sat there nodding and feeling like the walls were closing in. I told him everything that night, walked him through all 3, every detail I'd been carrying alone for years. He read the post I'd written about it without interrupting. When he finished, he said he still wanted to meet them, that he had a feeling there was something underneath all of it. I didn't sleep that night. Sunday dinner. My parents host every week, and I've been attending on the weeks I'm not with him, so it was easy enough to say we'd come to this one. The whole drive over my hands wouldn't stop shaking. He reached over and held one of them without saying anything. My parents were unrecognizable. My mom kissed my cheek at the door and immediately told him how handsome he was. My dad clapped him on the shoulder and started asking about his work like they were old friends. I kept waiting for the shift, the subtle dig, the question designed to humiliate. It didn't come. By the time we sat down to eat, I had almost convinced myself I'd imagined the last 10 years. Then my dad made a comment about my sister. Something about being glad she'd given him grandchildren, since she was the one who was actually his. He said it the way you say something you've said so many times it stopped meaning anything to you. Casual, offhand, like we all already knew. The table went quiet. My boyfriend looked at me, and I could see him putting it together in real time. I was doing the same thing. Every volleyball game my parents were too busy to attend. Every boyfriend they drove off. The way my sister floated through childhood while I walked on eggshells. The rage that came out of nowhere whenever I spoke my mind. I had spent my entire life believing I just wasn't as easy to love as she was. I started crying before I could stop myself. My boyfriend stood up, took my hand, and said we were leaving. My dad told us to sit down and clear things up. My mom screamed that he was trying to isolate me from my family. I turned around and told her that if anyone had spent my whole life isolating me, it was her. He didn't say a word the entire drive back. He just kept his hand on mine. When we got inside, he said one thing. He said that explains everything. Then he told me to find a therapist this week, and that he'd cover whatever my insurance didn't.